Let's get it. 580 Sports Talk coming at you on a Tuesday. Greetings and salutations. We're so glad you're with us. Batten down those hatches for a blizzard this evening in our listening area. Stay safe tonight. Appreciate you hanging out with us this afternoon here on 580 Sports Talk on the Sports Voice of Kansas. 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com. And a special hello to our video viewers checking us out on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and on Facebook at WIBW News. I am Dan Lucero. Brendan Dworzinski is here. Spencer Dupuis will be along in a bit. And we are with you talking sports for the next 2.5 hours or so, because tonight, the 580 Preps road to a championship. We have got high school basketball coming your way tonight as sub-state play gets underway in the capital city. A doubleheader for you this evening, starting with at 6 o'clock, Washburn Rural's boys hosting Wichita West. Myself and Larry Latimer will have the call of that one, and we'll start our pregame coverage around 5:40 or so tonight. Following that one, we will throw it out to Spencer Dupuis. He'll be up north Topeka, watching a city battle in 5A West girls sub-state play as the undefeated Seaman Lady Vikes start the defense of their 5A state championship from last year, taking on a familiar foe, the Topeka West Chargers. We'll join that game in progress with Spencer standing by for the play-by-play as soon as things are finished from the Washburn Rural Activity Center. So a doubleheader of high school basketball tonight on the 580 Preps road to a championship.
I know we just said this the other day, but man, I love Sub-State Week.
It
is so much fun. It's fun to be bouncing around games. Glad Spencer's getting a call tonight. You're obviously going to be on the call with Lat for game one of the doubleheader. I'm fired up about it. This is one of the most fun weeks of the year.
It really and truly is, and we look forward to getting it started tonight. We'll have coverage Friday, and we hope Saturday, time and opponents and all that permitting. But stay tuned to these airwaves, and we'll let you know. Obviously, tomorrow night we're preempted by K-State basketball, but Friday and Saturday we're hoping to be able to bring you coverage. We are certain to be able to bring you coverage on Friday night at the very least. So you will hear somebody punch a state ticket, maybe multiple somebodies. Again, we'll see how the schedule breaks down for us and where we end up going. But yes, going to bring you some basketball this week, and then of course next week is the state tournament. And nobody has done coverage of that like WIBW for 50 years plus. And we will have more state tournament coverage coming your way next week. But we've got sports talk before all of that gets underway tonight, and plenty to discuss, including Kansas's loss at Houston last night. No shame in the effort, but I thought the way that KU played was evidence of the real reason things have slid the way they have slid for the Jayhawks this season. And again, we got to be real careful not to overstate like 19-11 and 10-9 in the conference. Yes, it is not to the astronomically high bar, high standards that Kansas basketball has set, but they're going to the NCAA tournament. They've got a chance to win a couple of games in Kansas City next week in the Big 12 tournament. And they haven't played poorly for the better part of this year. Like, I can only think of one game where I thought they stunk. That was the BYU game. That was the only game I thought they were just awful. Every other game, even the ones that they've lost, they've been competitive to, like, just piddling down their leg like they did in the second half of the Baylor game. You want to say, oh, they were awful in the second half of the Baylor game. Okay, I'll listen to that.
Yeah, I think I would use the phrase non-competitive. I think they've been competitive in all but that, for generally speaking. The BYU game, they were not. That game was over by the first media timeout, which was really disheartening. I thought yesterday's game would be, and I give KU a lot of credit because I thought they battled really hard in that game yesterday.
They match up well in some ways with Houston.
They do.
They really do. And
one of the best games of the college basketball season was the game at Allen Fieldhouse.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a fun clash of styles. I do think there has been a number of games where KU played poorly but was competitive. The Utah game, KU was bad in that game, but they were in it until the very end. So I think that's the qualifier I would use. But yeah, I mean, it's not like, I brought it up yesterday that college basketball analytics guru Evan Miyakawa said, I think this can be an Elite Eight team, which even the most diehard KU fan at this point says, no, come on, like, be real, be serious, please, Evan. But like, we've seen them be really good at times this year. They smashed Iowa State, who a lot of people think is a national championship contender. I don't know if I do, but still, they're in the hunt for that. They beat Duke in a neutral site,
beat
like
Michigan State,
who's very good.
They are in the worst season in my lifetime. This is the worst Kansas season in my lifetime, which means it's the worst in your lifetime. And in that, even still, I go to Ken Palm's numbers. I go to Bart Torvik's numbers. They're a top 25 team in the country. So, like, we got to be careful not to overstate what's actually happening to Kansas. Have they fallen far short of expectations yet? Are they a bad basketball team? No. But they weren't as good as Houston last night, and they got, and we'll talk about why. And the one thing I think explains a lot of the reason why that Kansas has been competitive but not able to win many of these games, particularly down the stretch.
Now, I should note, technically speaking, not the worst game or season of your lifetime for KU, because you were alive for 88-89.
This is true.
They went 19-12, weren't able to play in the tournament.
Well, they're going to lose at least 12 games. We know that.
But they'll win more than 19, probably.
They should probably win more than 19.
Yeah.
Yes. But they're gonna lose at least 12. Unless they win the national championship and don't lose again. So
what a story that would be.
And that would make Danny and the Miracles look like tame in comparison.
Hunter and the Miracles.
Hey,
a lot of people would be really mad. I'm going to tell you that right now. Like, and I don't know what it was like in 1988 because I was not alive, but I'm assuming Danny Manning was pretty well liked around college, like great dude, awesome player. If Hunter Dickinson, who I like, but outside of Lawrence and maybe like some neighborhoods of Ann Arbor.
You know the old cliche on all of the old like Real World or like Big Brother Road Rules shows, like competitive reality shows where people look in the camera and they're one-on-ones and say, I'm not here to make friends. That's Hunter Dickinson.
He's not, and that's fine. It is what it is. If he was the centerpiece of a miraculous NCAA championship run, people would be really mad. Yeah. I'm just going to tell you that right now. There'd be a lot of anger around the sport.
So we'll get to some KU hoops top of the show. We're going to talk some Chiefs as well. Interesting article from Forbes.com yesterday where I go to get all of my sports news. When first click every morning. And I want to hear what's going on in the sports world. I'm going to read Forbes. But they had an article about Donovan Smith. Started a Super Bowl for the Chiefs at left tackle. Didn't play in the NFL last season. Wasn't healthy. Wants to come back to the NFL this year. Would a reunion make any kind of sense for the Chiefs? And a question that I think as we talk about the Chiefs left tackle options, such as they are at this point of the offseason, a question that's kind of starting to nag at me a little bit, kind of a what if that we'll noodle on when it comes to the Chiefs left tackle situation. That's coming up later on. Also has some Royals rumblings. Lots of rumors and smoke around the Royals. Still looking to add another bat. Reports that they engaged the Mets in trade talks for Starling Marte this offseason, and a report that they have offered free agent veteran outfielder Adam Duvall a contract, with Duvall saying, yeah, it's not enough money. If you don't give me more money, I'm just going to retire instead. Which,
good for him, frankly.
Yeah, you know, that tells me he has saved his money.
Your worth.
Yes, that tells me that Adam Duvall has been prudent with his money. He's got a World Series ring and a Gold Glove and a 100 RBI season. Like, Adam Duvall's accomplished a lot. Anyway, we'll talk about what that means and if either of those players, Duvall or Marte, would actually appreciably help the Kansas City Royals. We'll also talk Jayhawks with Michael Swain today. He'll be our guest, bottom of the 4 o'clock hour, Jayhawk Weekly with Michael of Fog.net. Part of the 24/7 Sports Network, and all the other things you've come to know and love from a Tuesday edition of the show, including our 580 Sports Talk headlines, another round of What is Wrong with You, Random Question Tuesday, and your comments and texts. You can comment in the live chat on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, if you are watching live. Again, that is 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel today if you have not. You can also text the show, 785-272-9429.
I would like to offer a quick apology, not because I did anything wrong necessarily, but after I said I was not alive in 1988, Ryan on YouTube says, quote, I was not alive in 1988. Excuse me while I go scream into a pillow. Yeah, when that national championship was decided, I would not be born for another roughly 6 years and 6 months.
The first Final Four I can remember in my life is the one in Denver in 1990. It's the first one that I can give you.
The first Final Four I remember was probably, I'm sure I watched them younger than this, but was the 03 KU Syracuse national championship.
Okay. Yeah.
Because that's when I really got into KU, and I've shared this story before. I saw Kirk Heinrich in Sports Illustrated, and so that's the first one I remember. I never got over it. Like, I said a lot of really nasty things about Carmelo Anthony for a long time. And frankly, I still probably would.
I understand.
You're 8 years old.
Yes.
I wasn't even. Yeah, I was 8 years old for that Final Four. You develop strong opinions, and some of them never go away.
So all of that on the show today. Again, weigh in on the YouTube chat and get at us on the text line 785-272-9429. Houston 65, KU 59 at the Fertitta Center last night. Good basketball game. Entertaining game.
Competitive, yeah.
And kind of like Saturday at Allen Fieldhouse, where you looked at the box score and said, oh, here's why KU lost. They got threed. Texas Tech shot what I believe is scientifically known as a buttload of three-pointers, and they made 14 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And that was way more than KU made, and that was the difference. It is also similarly not hard to look at the box score from last night and say, oh, this is where the game was lost for Kansas. KU turned the ball over 20 times, and Houston had 17 offensive rebounds. And as a result, Houston got to shoot the basketball from the field 26 more times. Kelvin Sampson said it himself. He did an interview with Scott Van Pelt on SportsCenter right after the game and said, look, that was the difference. We needed that because Houston did not shoot it great. Kansas, first shot defense, terrific, really good. You know, we were talking yesterday about how well Kansas rates nationally in the KenPom numbers on defense. Mm-hmm. And we have people say, how are they sixth in the country in defense? They can't guard anybody. And they guarded their tails off against Houston last night. Now, it was helpful that LJ Cryer, who scored 22 points when he was out there, was not out there for extended stretches because of foul trouble.
Yeah.
But KU matches up pretty well with Houston. Part of it is KJ Adams is the most Houston Cougar player on the KU roster. And I say that entirely complimentary. And so he matches up really well. Like, his game, I think, is enhanced both offensively and defensively, playing a team like that. But that's where the game was lost. 20 turnovers, 17 offensive rebounds. Houston defends and rebounds like a pack of rabid badgers. And KU, even at their best, has not valued the basketball very well this season. Remember the first half against Mizzou when they turned it over? I think it was 15 times. They have had issues with turning the ball over all season long. Issues that bit them. If KU had cut either of those numbers in half, the turnover number or the offensive rebound allowed number, I think they win. But Houston, like, when you watch them defend, it's unbelievable. It's like they've got 5 octopi on the floor, and they deflect everything. They get a touch on every ball that is in the air at any point. It is truly remarkable how hard they play. It's toughness, it's desire. It's why I think they're going to win the national championship. I think they're that kind of team.
Yeah, I think they're really good. I'm picking Auburn to win the national championship because I think Auburn's got the best player in the country. But
when did Cooper Flagg transfer to Auburn?
He didn't. His daddy, John I. Broom, has been there all year.
All right.
I don't even remember who won that game. Was it Duke? I think Duke beat them. Am I misremembering? Because they played each other, didn't they?
I think did they play each other?
I thought so, unless I'm misremembering.
No, they did. Duke beat them.
Yeah, okay, that's right.
Back in December.
Yeah, and, I mean, Cooper Flagg had a double-double. Yeah, I mean, Cooper Flagg is incredible. I'm 90 years old with this take. Freshmen should be ineligible for National Player of the Year. Sorry. I genuinely believe that, though.
Cooper Flagg's the best one.
You're not I mean, yeah, he's
Davis.
Incredible. All right, I'm going to venture off the beaten path here for 1 second. If you earnestly believe Cooper Flagg is going to go back to Duke for another year, turn off your radio, go for a walk right now. Go take a walk.
Great.
And think about yourself. Think about how you got to that point. Do not stop. Stop it. Stop. Okay, I'm done now.
You're done. You're good. Okay.
Here's what it comes down to me for KU. And I think this has been very apparent, especially last night. It really crystallized something that has probably been brewing for a while. And I know this sounds like, wow, real great analysis there, Brendan. This team's just not good enough to beat Houston. Like, That's what it comes down to.
Houston is a better basketball team.
That is such a unique thing for a team coached by Bill Self that in this part of the year, KU played hard. The effort was there. Some guys did not play well. Like I feel bad for DeJuan Harris that he's going to end his career on a down note, national champion. But at the same time, like DeJuan Harris has been bad for like a month plus. This isn't like, he's slumping. No, he's been bad.
You can't play an offensive zero that many minutes against Houston. They're too good defensively.
Right.
They're going to swallow up your other scorers. Everybody has to be a threat.
And KJ is working his butt off. And I understand the gripes about his game. We don't need to relitigate it, but he's trying.
He's been awesome the last 2 games.
Yeah.
I honestly, you could argue that his performances against Tech and Houston the last 2 times out have been the best 2 games of his season.
Well, and you mentioned he's a very Houston-like player. Like This is a good matchup for him, I think. And again, limited player, but the effort is there. It's not like he's given up. I think the rebounding yesterday was obviously a problem. I think Hunter Dickinson has played well recently. He had a sick reverse. It's not even a layup. I don't know what you call it. Like a sick reverse shot yesterday near the end of the game when KU was putting together its last gasp. Like the effort is there, the design is there. The team's just not good enough.
No,
which is like completely, again, not like deep analysis, but it just is what it is. And it's a rare thing, even in the last couple of years when things have been somewhat frustrating. Like 2 years ago, for example, even last year, I thought the starting 5 for KU was Final Four, if not championship caliber. The problem is then Kevin McCullough got hurt, and then you and I had to play minutes for that team last season.
You and I collectively could have shot it better than Nick Timberlake.
We probably could have. Like that year is frustrating. But they still I believe it with this core. 2 years ago, the Jalen Wilson's last year with the program. Jalen Wilson himself tried to will that team to a Final Four. Unfortunately, the Bill Self health problems that screwed everything up. But they were far less talented than the year before, but still, you're like, I believe in this team. Like, I believe in that dude, and McCullough was there. Like, Grady I believe Dick, in
actually,
that.
Yeah,
Grady Dick was awesome.
That team was really good.
Like, this team is different than the other recently frustrating teams because they're just not good enough. Like, I could not believe, and you have to play them because you have to have a certain number of guys on the floor and give guys a blow. Like, AJ Storr dropped a cherry-picking outlet pass.
Yeah, he did.
It hit him in both hands, and he dropped it out of bounds. And I know I pick on him a lot. I understand that. And I'm, feel bad on a personal level, but like the dude's just bad. He's just a bad basketball player. The team has too many stretches where guys that otherwise should be better play like bad basketball players. Harris has been bad for a while. Zeke Mayo is just not right now. And I don't know if it's maybe, and I was talking about this with a buddy of mine. And I was even, in fact, talking about this with our guy, Trenton Kraxner. I think Zeke is a good basketball player. I think, home Zeke has been fun all year. He's a great story. What happened over the weekend shouldn't have happened, clearly. I think it is becoming clear that the grind of a full Big 12 schedule has worn him down physically because he's not a big guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it has worn him down by this part of the year. Like, it's just a team that is not good enough to hang with Houston. And if you played a 7-game series with Iowa State, that first win early in the year was awesome. Iowa State's going to win that series. And a lot of the other best teams in the Big 12 are just better than Kansas is, which is not something we're used to saying.
No.
And I think that's part of why this year is so frustrating because it's taken a long time, at least for me, to sort of put that together into a coherent thought. Like, they're just not good enough.
They are a 19-11 basketball team. They are what their record says they are. Objectively good, but not as good as the teams above them in the conference standings. I think tangibly that's all true. But I was struck by something intangibly last night, and I was struck by it watching Diggy Coit play. Diggy had 14 last night and played a lot of minutes and deserved to play a lot of minutes.
Yes.
He also had a terrible shot in a 3-point game. He went to the rim, and I don't know if he tried to lay it off the shot clock or what it was, but it was not good.
Yeah.
Anyway, but here's the thing. Diggy Coit went to the rack, and he thought he was going to make that shot. And I have had the thought watching KU the last couple of weeks that Diggy Coit plays with a confidence that does not seem to be in evidence for a lot of KU's players. Diggy never hesitates to get his shot or try to make a play on either end. He thinks he's going to make the play.
Yep.
He thinks he's going to make the shot. He might not, but he thinks he's going to. And I think the fact that your most confident guy right now is a transfer from Northern Illinois who most people didn't think would really get rotation minutes this season,
like me,
says a lot about where KU is. And I think this team, ever since they blew the Houston game, has lacked confidence.
I agree with that.
I think that game and losing that way in that building shook this team to its core. And then to go out the next Saturday and lose the way they did to Baylor.
Yeah, no, I think that's totally fair.
For so many years, Kansas has won games because they were Kansas. Kansas has won games at Allen Fieldhouse because they were Kansas playing at Allen Fieldhouse. That was the kind of way you would expect Kansas to win a game against a top 10 opponent, the way they lost that Houston game. That was the way you would expect them to go steal one on the road, is how they got run down and beaten by Baylor in that game. And I think from that point, and really these last couple of weeks, I think there have been times that this team has carried the weight of being the bad Kansas team, which again, we're speaking in terms of calling a team that is going to win probably 20 games. Like, I think they're going to win at least one more game. It may not be Saturday, but they haven't lost senior day since Hector was a pup. I think they'll find a way past Arizona on Saturday. I do. I think they can win that game. And to get to 20 wins, right about 20-win basketball team. On no planet would you say this team is bad, but relative to the preposterous standard that Kansas has performed at for the better part of, again, our lifetimes, this is the bad Kansas team. And I think that has worn on guys. I think that their confidence has been shaken. I don't think Rylan Griffin shoots it with the same kind of confidence every time.
No.
Certainly AJ Store's confidence is completely gone. Even Hunter Dickinson, a guy who at his best, like, drips confidence. He went through a spell, and he was better last night. He was really good against Tech, and he was great at Colorado. He went through a spell this year where he had the yips, where he didn't have the touch around the rim. That's a confidence thing. I really think this team's confidence has taken such a huge hit. It's a crisis of confidence. Word to Jimmy Carter. I really think that is one of the reasons we have seen the results we have seen, with a roster that is still objectively talented, with a team that still grades out really well in the metrics, a team that is competitive night in and night out. But we don't expect Kansas to compete. We expect them to win. And there's a difference between being competitive and finding a way to win. This team doesn't do that part, and I don't think they have the confidence to do it. I think they've lacked it the last month and a half.
You know, it's an interesting note about the future roster building of this team, because I was thinking this last night. Diggy Coit's going to get another year. The Diego Pavia injunction is going to give him another year of eligibility because he was a JUCO guy in 2020, so he'll get an extra year. And he has said he'd like to come back to Kansas. I hope Bill Self keeps him around, because I think next year's team is going to need a veteran presence because a lot of dudes are leaving, obviously. But that confidence is an important thing. It's the JUCO mindset complementary. Sometimes the JUCO mindset's a bad thing. You know, you covered the sport. In this case, I think it's a good thing that, hey, I'm going to get a shot and I'm going to make the shot. And I'm going to be the best player on the floor, even if I was, counted out because I'm small or, grades or whatever. So I think that's a good thing for KU to have. I've seen a lot of, I want Rylan Griffin back next year. These guys should come back next year. These guys should transfer out. I'm glad I'm never going to have to watch so-and-so again, whatever. I love the idea of Rylan Griffin. I was banging that drum for a large portion of the season. I almost wonder, and this isn't a shot at him personally, but I almost wonder if you need to tell those guys to go somewhere else. Like, I still like the idea of Rylan Griffin's skill set, but someone who has had his confidence shot so badly, who is just completely off, a totally different guy than he was last year for Alabama. If it just makes more sense to say, we're going to ride with the guys who still have that kind of edge that we need to hit the ground running with next year. Because next year, this year it was all about, we've got this crazy senior group, right? And DeJuan and KJ and Hunter are going to lead us to the promised land. Next year, the guy who's going to lead you to the promised land is going to be 18 years old. Maybe he turns 19 during the year. I don't know. In Darren Peterson. And it looks like he is going to be special. But you need vets around him to help you out. And I don't know if it makes sense unless you think you can totally build Griffin back up. Maybe he really wants to come back. I don't know. I'm not inside that building, obviously. But it does make me think maybe you need to just tell some guys, hey, it's time for a fresh start for you and for us. And I feel bad saying that because I would love to have Griffin back with that skill set. But you're right. I mean, no one on this team is playing with confidence. Hunter Dickinson is a confident guy. That helps. But other than that and Diggy, that's kind of it.
Yeah, and you don't go on the road and beat Houston when you're not playing confidently. That's the kind of thing that leads to 20 turnovers and 17 offensive rebounds surrendered. We got some more thoughts on KU's game last night. We're going to talk Chiefs and Royals later on in the program. More Jayhawks with Michael Swain, bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. Random Question Tuesday coming up in a bit. Your comments, your text to 785-272-9429, and so much more. We're just getting started on this Tuesday edition of 580 Sports Talk.
All right, question for you.
All right, Brendan, give it to me.
As we keep talking some KU basketball, the idea of the bad KU team, prior to this year, what was the bad KU team? I think there's two easy ones you can pick from. And it obviously goes, there's a lot you can pick from. We're talking Bill Self era here.
the bad KU team of the Bill Self era.
Like this one is obviously that team now, for better or for worse, but
I my institutional knowledge only goes back but so far. I've only been covering the team a decade plus.
Sure.
So in that stretch, I don't know that they were bad, but this is the most disappointing KU team I think since the Wiggins Embiid team.
Okay. Sure.
I would say that. The other bad one, the team that maybe the Dedrick Lawson team where they went 26-10.
I think the 18-19 KU team, the Dedrick Lawson year, and
they were preseason number 1 that year too.
Yeah. KU has never made a Final Four after being preseason number 1. Isn't that wild?
That is wild.
And then the 20 and 21 team post-COVID, I think, are the two easy recent answers. I think 21 was worse than 19. Like the 18-19 team, it was frustrating, and Doak got hurt. It was the second time he had the severe injury that cost him the majority of the season. It was the wrist injury. Dedrick was awesome, like the ultimate forgotten Kansas season, because he was a double-double machine, even though he was so wildly unathletic. And it was the first team that didn't win the conference title. Remember, it snapped the streak. And there was good talent on that team. Freshman Devon Dotson was there. You had Marcus Garrett was still around. He was just a sophomore at the time. Quentin Grimes obviously had a ton of hype. That was a failed experiment.
Yeah.
Although the relationship never really suffered, because Bill Self went to the NCAA and said, please don't give him a waiver. Just let him go play elsewhere. This is not his fault.
Yeah.
Which, that's really going above and beyond for the guy at the time. Ochai had his red shirt pulled that year, and he came out like gangbusters in the middle of January when he started playing. I think the team the year after COVID was worse. And when you look at, and then the records were pretty similar. In fact, one fewer loss for that 21 team, but fewer games played. You just look at the roster. Ugh. Marcus Garrett was your starting point guard, and I love Marcus Garrett. Starting as your main distributor, I don't know. Latrell Giselle was on that team. A lot of minutes for Tyon Grant Foster before he went to Grand Canyon, and they just let him play do-his-ass basketball, which works for him, and it's an awesome story.
Yes, it does.
Bryce Thompson, who I love because he committed to KU in a tough time for the program. Always appreciate Bryce Thompson for that. Bryce is going to do one thing. He is going to take mid-range jumpers. He is not going to do anything else on the floor for you. That team.
Great value, DeMar DeRozan.
Yeah. Tristan and Aruna. Need I say more?
So KU's only been a 4 seed 4 times under Bill Self, and that's their worst seed in a season under Self. They were a 4 in 2004, went to the Elite 8. They were a 4 in 06. I believe that was Bucknell, wasn't it? Or
06? I think 06 was Bucknell.
Bradley, sorry.
Oh,
Bradley. Yeah, it was a B.
05 was Bucknell.
05 was Bucknell.
I would have gotten them backwards.
Yeah. And then they were a 4 in that 2019 year, lost in the second round that season to, who was it? Auburn. And then they were obviously a 4 last year and got rolled by Gonzaga. So they're going to be something like a 7 seed this year, maybe as low as an 8. Last time they were an 8 seed, 2000 under Roy Williams. Also, if you want positive historical context, KU's lost 3 home games this year. Last time they lost 3 home games, 2018. Went to the Elite 8 that year. Or rather, the Final Four that year. I'm sorry.
Unfortunately, I do not think March Malik is walking through that door.
No.
Imagine a guy on this team right now playing with the confidence of 2018 Malik Newman.
They lost to Arizona State, Texas Tech, and Oklahoma State.
That would have been freshman Remy Martin, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
On that Arizona State team.
That's right. So
first of back-to-back years that Remy Martin led ASU to a win over Kansas.
A lot of historical context that isn't good there. But watching the game last night, Bill Self had to deal with the retirement rumors and people talking about the game passing him by and all this. He doesn't look like a coach, and his team doesn't play like a team that's stopped competing or stopped caring or putting a roll of stamps on it. We got some iconic, in fact, sideline lip reading from Bill Self last night. There was one late game defensive rebound where I could read the lips, and it was effing soft. And then there was the second,
ultimate Bill Self diss.
And then there was the second offensive rebound that they gave up in like the final minute of the game, and they panned to Bill Self, and immediately it was an F word. And then him telling, I think it was David Coy, to foul the bleep out of somebody in that situation.
He also yelled at an official and asked, "What the bleep are you watching?" Which, like typical coach stuff.
I don't think Bill's low on energy. I don't think his gas tank is anywhere near on E. And I think that he and this program are going to be incredibly motivated in 2025, 26 and beyond. Yeah, like sometimes you can tell when a coach or a manager is starting
checked out.
The fire doesn't burn like it did.
Go
ahead. And I don't sense that with Bill Self. I really don't.
Doug Peterson in Jacksonville this NFL season was checked out. Like he was done. He knew it was over, and he had no problem with showing you that he knew it was over. Bill Self, this is, and I say this as a KU alumnus and fan, along with media member. This is such a classic KU fan base, KU online fan base thing. It's the same as this team is so unlikable thing that comes up every time KU loses 2 games in a row. Like, why do we think this? Why do we believe this? Is it because Bill Self is frustrated to this degree for the first time in his time at KU? Yeah, he probably is frustrated. I bet he's frustrated with his guys. He's frustrated with some bad breaks. He's probably frustrated with himself that the way he built this roster didn't work. Like, that's what this all comes down to, is the roster construction did not work out. KU went for the superstar portal swings, and it has not clicked. It can work, but not when you try to build the entire plane out of it. And I think, at least with this group, and I think that I can completely understand being frustrated about that. But the whole, I saw the other day for the first time in like 4 years, what if Bill Self went to the Spurs this offseason posts online. Oh my God. Like, I just cannot get over how dumb that take is. And I'm sorry if you believe that. I think like 90% of college basketball fans thought that at some point when they first learned that Bill Self and RC Buford are boys. Like, no, that is never going to happen. Bill Self he himself is almost at retirement time.
Yeah.
Like, stop it. Again, stop it. But I don't know where this take comes from, honestly. Like, he's so frustrated. He's got to be tuned out. His team's just not all that good. And yeah, I'd be frustrated too.
Yeah, no, I paid a little closer attention given the weirdness of that statement after Saturday. And I wrote him pretty good on the show yesterday. I kind of paid a little closer attention to like the sideline demeanor a little bit. He's the same guy. The fire still burns. We'll take a quick break. We come back with some Random Question Tuesday here on 580 Sports Talk. Random question Tuesday time. Big news from the Kansas City Royals today. Joe's KC Barbecue is coming to the K this season.
Yeah, it
You're
is.
going to be able to get a Z-Man while you watch Angel Zerpa. Just saying a little synergy here.
I mean, they got to put him on a banner in an in-game ad or something, right?
The Royals also have a Z-Man. He's a left-hander who throws 98 miles an hour. Anyhow.
Just put a picture of the sandwich on the scoreboard as he enters the game.
Man, listen. I love looking at the picture of the Z-Man. It's so delicious. Anyhow, it will also be the shortest Joe's Kansas City line in Greater Kansas City.
Yeah.
The one at the ballpark. So obviously that's huge news. Leads to my random question Tuesday today. What is the best food item you have ever enjoyed at a stadium?
Okay, I am not like I'm going to get the heart attack milkshake that's got chocolate and strawberry and vanilla, and it's 88 ounces, and it's got a burger in the middle. Like, that ain't me.
We made a hot dog that's 4 feet long.
We want for 90s Day at the ballpark, we put steroids in the brats. Like that's not who I am. So I usually, like in a ball game, I'm getting a hot dog.
Sure.
Maybe I'll get a foot long. I'm getting a hot dog. Football game, like I've gotten chicken tenders before. Like I'm keeping it simple.
Sure.
So simple answer, Lambeau Field cheese curds. That's the easy number one right there. You have to. Like, you eat the local fare when you go somewhere. I did have really good brats at what was formerly the Cell, now the Rate at White Sox Park.
Sure.
Most people in Chicago just call it Sox Park.
Yes, they do.
But yeah, no, they have real good food, like legit, really good ballpark food, good brats. So I like the basics, though.
No, I respect that. I think a lot about the Italian beef sandwich I had at Soldier Field when I went to see the Seahawks play the Bears back in 2007.
The true Chicago delicacy.
Fabulous sandwich. I can understand why they made a whole TV show about a restaurant that just serves Italian beef sandwiches. I get it. I tried fish tacos for the first time at a Padres game at the old Qualcomm Stadium in 1998, and they have been one of my favorite things to eat ever since. But like Humphrey Bogart had it right when he said a hot dog at a ball game is better than a steak at the Ritz. Like, I went to Wrigley Field. I had 2 dogs in an old style, and it tasted better than anything I've ever eaten in my whole entire life. Like, I respect and trust and believe I'm going to get a Z-Man at a Royals game.
Yes.
That is happening. I've eaten like the tachos out of the helmet.
Mm-hmm.
Big 12 eats at the Big 12 tournament.
Oh, yeah.
I've enjoyed some of the Big 12 eats the last couple of years. But man, hot dog at a ballpark, sometimes that's all you need.
Nothing like it. It's the absolute best. I also had a food question, and you trying fish tacos at a Padres game actually fits in with this perfectly. What is the riskiest order you've ever made out to eat?
The riskiest order?
Like, I probably shouldn't want to try this, but I'm going to order it.
I feel like that's every time I go to Taco Bell past 9:00. Like, that's pretty risky.
See, my answer is an easy one. Sports bar oysters.
Sports bar oysters.
Also the name of my debut album for my post-grunge band.
Sports bar oysters.
Sports bar oysters. I will not tell you where I ordered them. However, I can tell you it was named for the 3rd president of the United States.
Okay.
Yeah. They were surprisingly okay. I got the oysters Rockefeller.
So,
should I have eaten them? No. My body is still probably paying the price a year later.
When I went to Madeira Beach with my wife and my wife's side of the family, a little family vacation 2 summers ago, and my father-in-law ordered some oysters. Mm-hmm. And I'm big on, like, if I've never tried a certain kind of seafood, I'll try it if I can see where it came from. Like, if where I'm sitting, I can see where it came from, I will order it. Like, I was never going to order oysters in, like, Racine, Wisconsin. Like, that was not going to happen.
Okay.
But, so I did. My father-in-law ordered some oysters. Next time I tried my first ever oyster. That was my last ever oyster. I'm never ordering.
Not a fan?
Absolutely not. No.
And where'd you order them?
They were at a restaurant in Madeira Beach.
Oh, Madeira Beach. That's right. You said Madeira Beach.
Yeah,
okay.
right.
Yeah, no, I get that. No. I love oysters. I could go eat a dozen right now and just throw them down like it's nothing. I love oysters.
I will say, it's a risky order every time. It usually pays off, but it can be risky. Ceviche.
Okay.
Because it's not cooked, right?
Yeah.
So the acid of the lemon or the lime rather is what cooks it. And, you don't get enough of it. You're eating raw fish, and that's a gamble. It's a risk.
All right, while we have a
gas
moment.
station sushi.
All right, you mentioning ceviche. I don't know why it made me think of this, but what is the menu? Like, you're ordering something, you think, oh, wow, this menu item looks great. And then you see a specific ingredient and you roll your eyes. What is the eye roll ingredient? Like, of course they added this to this meal.
Huh, that's an interesting question.
The answer for me is arugula. Just put lettuce on it. I don't want a salad with arugula.
It's just
give me lettuce.
It's just lettuce.
It sucks, though. It's bad lettuce. Imagine lettuce, but bad. No crunch. No, it's got nothing. No bag. Not nice with it.
Yeah, they don't need to put, like, you don't need cilantro or like a garnish. Like, if they're going to garnish something, if it's just there for decoration. Like, I am big, I'm a believer in you eat with your eyes. And so, like, I like a good presentation, but don't act like that's part of the meal. Don't act like the garnish is something I'm also going to enjoy as part of what I'm getting to eat, even if it is in the ceviche. By the way, best ceviche I ever had, Puerto Vallarta.
I believe that.
Oh my God, it went crazy. I still think about, like, there's a fried shrimp. This is where my wife and I honeymooned at the resort we were at, and they had this fried shrimp and ceviche, and we went every day to the same restaurant for lunch 4 straight days and had the same order, and it was great every single time. And it will still come to me in dreams. It really and truly will. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll wrap up this 3 o'clock hour, 580 Sports Talk. Wrapping up this 3 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk. We got some more fun coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. We're going to talk some Chiefs. Donovan Smith, name you might have forgotten about during last season because he did not play in the NFL. Apparently, there were some teams that were interested in bringing him back. And maybe the Chiefs are interested in a reunion with the former left tackle who started Super Bowl 58 for next season. We'll talk about that. And I have a what if about the left tackle position that I want to chew on a little bit. Also, Michael Swain of Fog.net is going to join us to talk all things Jayhawks, not just KU hoops, mind you. Spring practice is underway for the Kansas football team.
Yeah, it is.
I cannot believe we're already talking about spring football practice.
Hey, KU baseball's had a nice start to the year.
And KU baseball is playing well. So, yeah, plenty to talk about with Michael. He'll join us at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. We'll have What Is Wrong With You as well, of course, sponsored by State Farm agent Ryan Mo Winkle. Plus your YouTube comments and your text, 785-272-9429. Hang out with us. We got another hour coming up, 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Hour number 2 on a Tuesday on 580 Sports Talk. Dan Lucero, Brendan Dworzinski rocking with you this afternoon.
Hour number Tuesday.
Hour number 2 on a Tuesday. 2 for Tuesday. I don't know what we can offer people that would be a twofer on a Tuesday.
When
There's two of
I
us.
was in high school and hosted a morning radio show, I did 2 for Tuesdays every day.
Sure.
Every week. Yeah.
Classic music radio, classic rock radio construct.
I had a theme.
Back-to-back Journey songs.
Yeah, well,
you hear Wheel in the Sky, and you think, oh, that's all the Journey for me. And then, bam, Don't Stop Believin' follows it up. And you think, man, God bless Tuesday.
Horrifying. I remember I did Metal Mondays.
Sure.
Remember, I was in high school. I had a lot of freedom here. As long as it wasn't cursed, and I could kind of do whatever I wanted. I had Metal Mondays. I had 2 for Tuesdays. I don't remember what Feel Good Friday was. I did something. I don't remember what it was. But
no mandatory Metallica?
Metallica always got played on Mondays during Metal Monday.
Okay.
Mandatory Metallica Metal Monday.
Oh, that's a lot of M's.
It was a lot of M's.
Yep.
At the time, I was really up to date on all the FCC rules about how many songs from a single band you could play in a certain amount of time. I have since forgotten that exact information, but I know it's out there. I had to teach people like every semester. So I was our program director for a year, which was the like head honcho student. And I had to, for every one of our
on campus or just at the radio station?
Oh, at the radio station. No one gave a rat's ass about me. Please.
Feeling like the man when you walk through.
Yeah. Yeah, I did the morning announcements. That was real cool. So, but for all of the DJs, I had to do a training session with them where we had to go over the station rules, the FCC rules, and then like, how do you turn on the microphone on the computer?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was sharp on everything about the FCC guidelines for radio. Granted, we might like not have law anymore on the radio, so who knows? But I could crush anyone in an FCC trivia contest at the time.
I don't remember having to get real in the weeds on that stuff when I did college radio for 4 years. I was only ever the sports director though, so
well, there's the funny thing about it. That was high school. I didn't do any of that when I went to college.
College radio is the Wild West. Or high school radio, there's lucky you get to exist.
Yeah, no, seriously though.
Like
I was like, wow, this is amazing. We're here. Like,
we really got to toe the line. College radio is the Wild West.
I learned so much, and like so much of what I do now is because of what I was able to do at KJHK Radio at KU. And this is not a criticism at all of my education largely took place there. But I remember my first day, they took the new freshman DJs through, like show them the equipment and everything.
Yeah.
And I'm asking all these tactical questions, and the program director's like, so you like really don't need to be here, huh? I was like, well, I don't think so. And I asked him a question at one point that he's like, dude, I'm gonna be honest with you, I have no idea. Like you're going too far here. Like don't worry about it. Said, okay, fine.
Just follow the music log or don't. And don't swear. And every top of the hour, play the legal ID.
Yeah, well, we didn't even have logs. We picked all of our own music.
No kidding.
When I started, like now, I think I was a sophomore, and they put in the same computer system we actually have here at 580 and our family of stations. But when I was a freshman, it was CDs or the record player.
Yeah.
So I'd get there an hour before my shift, and I would just go shelf to shelf, pulling CDs. Ooh, this would be a great group of 3 songs before I go on the air next. Here's a great group of 3 before I go on the air next. Here's 2, but they're both really long.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'll talk after that. Oh, I was a dork. I was a total nerd.
So our music directors would put together logs, but we had a lot of themed shows on WGRE, Greencastle, Indiana. So, like the folks who played like the religious rock music, like the Christian rock hour would play their own music. The metal show, 9 to 12 Monday nights, used to read letters.
Ours was 9 to 12 Sunday. Yeah.
They read fan letters from the local jail every night.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they got a lot of fan letters from the local jail. People were really into the metal show. But yeah, so those shows didn't follow the log. But like if you were, so my DJ shift was I hosted the sports talk show. And sports reporters. It is very much now on the station, very much limited to discussing DePauw University athletics. Not the case.
Not the case when I was
we ran 40 minutes into the next person's show one night after the Malice at the Palace. Like, which you can imagine, Indiana, my co-host took that very personally.
I can imagine.
So yeah, we had a long show that day. We went overtime a little bit.
Do you ever do music? You ever DJ?
I did. So I did do a little bit of a DJ shift, and I would typically follow the music log. There was one time that got me in trouble because I played a song that hadn't gotten edited by our music directors. It was a Rat-a-tat remix of a rap song by Young Buck, T.I., and Ludacris. And there's a lot of profanity in that song, as it turned out. And also, that was on a Sunday morning before we kicked it to the Methodist church service.
No.
Yeah. So yeah, my hands were clean.
Yeah.
I just followed the log, so I didn't get any trouble for it. But
they got in trouble for it.
Yes, there was trouble for our music director at the time. This is not KJHK or WGRE Greencastle. This is the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and on our YouTube stream. Our YouTube channel is 580 Sports Talk. We are also on Facebook at WIBW News. That is definitely the latest into the hour I've ever gotten into that. We're 12 minutes past
We're just
the hour.
setting records.
Yeah, we are. We're setting trends on this Tuesday. Coming up later this hour on 580 Sports Talk, Michael Swain's going to join us from fog.net, talk Jayhawks on Jayhawk Weekly. We also got 2 new stories on what is wrong with you. Saw this story yesterday. Actually, Spencer sent it to me. I had not seen it. Spencer sent it to me. So it's Spencer who, cracks open Forbes for a daily read. Spencer,
let me check the markets and then check on the Chiefs.
Spencer, you're going to check on the markets and then read Jeff Fetterton, who covers the Chiefs for Forbes.
Sure he does.
I'm the Chiefs beat writer for Forbes.
Shout out to Jeff.
Yeah, big shout to Jeff. He also covers sports business. Imagine that. Anyway, don't mean to knock Jeff. He's a good writer, and he wrote this story with the headline, "Why Free Agent Donovan Smith Could Make Sense for Chiefs Again in 2025. The crux of the article: with such a glaring need at left tackle this past season, why didn't the Chiefs turn to the previous year's starter? That's because Smith suffered a hip injury while training in May of 2024 that caused him to miss the entire 2024 campaign. According to a source close to the situation, either Smith or his agent, about half of the league called to check in on Smith last year. Though he wasn't able to help the Chiefs or any other team in 2024, he's better now and hopes to continue his career in 2025. Smith has started 124 games during his 9-year career, started 12 games and the Super Bowl 2 seasons ago. But he missed 5 games in 2023 with a neck injury, missed all of the 2024 season, and will turn 32 this summer. It only cost the Chiefs $3 million to sign Smith late in the 2023 offseason and apply him to their vacancy at left tackle. And Donovan Smith was a little penalty prone, but otherwise fine. Like, he held up fine. He played fine. He was not Kingsley Suamataia. He was not Wanye Morris. He was not what Joe Thuney looked like in the Super Bowl. It was adequate left tackle play. If it can still be adequate left tackle play, does this make sense as a solution for the Chiefs in 2025? I just have my doubts it can be adequate. I mean, we're talking about a guy who's missed, you want to count 2024, he's missed 22 of a possible 34 regular season games the last 2 years, and he's 32 years old. And I don't love the thought of a hip injury for a lineman in his early 30s. I don't think that this ought to be plan A. Now, if this is plan B, if this is something where the Chiefs say, you know what, let's give him a camp invite. Let's draft a left tackle at 31, and let's do a camp invite for Donovan Smith because he's going to cost less than even a DJ Humphries. And let's see. Let's see if he's got any juice. I could get behind that, but then you're going into camp with a competition for left tackle, and that doesn't work. Like, you've got to be solid at left tackle. You got to be set. You got to have somebody there that Patrick Mahomes trusts. That's the most important thing, because you are not, if you were the Kansas City Chiefs, getting elite left tackle play in 2025. You're not.
No.
There is not, unless you absolutely strike gold in the draft, you are not getting an elite level of left tackle play. That's not something you can go get on the open market.
No.
And it's not something you're probably going to draft at number 31 overall. You are not getting elite. You just need adequate and trustworthy. That's the baseline. That's out there. I think that's something that the Chiefs can acquire. I just don't think a guy who missed all last season is going to turn 32 years old this summer is going to be the source of that, or at least the most reliable source of that.
Yeah, I mean, he was already just like okay when he was playing in 2023 and then missed an entire year after an injury. Yeah, you want to bring him in on a vet minimum to battle out in camp, fine. And if he ends up winning the job, congrats to him. But this would not be, this wouldn't even be plan B for me. Like this is, we need to just throw, what, like what teams do with kickers. Like, wow, we just cannot make an extra point. We're going to bring in 8 kickers to try out on the same day. And whoever comes out on top gets to play for us this week. Like I would do that, but I don't know. I would pass, honestly. I just don't think he's that good. Like he's fine. He's okay. You're right. He's serviceable and you don't need elite. You don't need great. You barely need okay. You just need isn't going to get your quarterback killed if you're the Chiefs. I just don't think that profile fits, to be honest with you. Hip injury, worrisome. I thought Lucas Niang was going to be a good NFL player. He had a hip injury and pretty much never did anything.
Yeah.
He just wallowing on practice squads for the rest of his career, however long that goes. Like a hip injury is worrisome for a tackle and really a lineman in any position.
Particularly if you suffered it in May and you never made it back onto a football field, if half the league was calling to check in.
Yeah, I would love to know if that's almost half the league, like 15 or 16 teams we lost count, or 9 called and we rounded up. Like, what's half the league? What's about half the league here?
Right.
CAA or whoever reps Donovan Smith. So I'm a little dubious of that particular claim. Man, I'd rather try it out with the guys I already have on the roster, to be honest with you.
Speaking of, so I just said, and I stand by this, there is no way for the Chiefs to acquire an elite left tackle. Like it doesn't work against the cap. There's not one available for trade. Typically, elite left tackles aren't available for trade. You have an elite left tackle, you pay him, and he wears your uniform his entire career. Those guys don't just come available. So it's going to be something less than elite. Also, you don't draft elite where the Chiefs have been drafting. Like if you're looking for the best tackles, the positional value, especially at left tackle, is so high that the best guys go in the upper reaches of the draft. How many went in the top 10 or the top 15 of the draft this last year? Alt, Fatuanu, I think, went in the top 15 to the Steelers. Who else was it that went in the top? I've got the draft up right now. J.C. Latham went to the Titans.
Yeah, J.C. Latham went top 10. Fashanu went 11th.
Yeah, that's who I was thinking of. Not
and Fuaga went 14th to the Saints.
So it was 4 in the top 15, and then Fatuano went 20, and Amarius Mims went number 18. But
so 6 top 20 picks.
6 top 20 picks was the best of the best. Best guy at that spot went number 5. Like the Chiefs don't pick that high unless they trade up. Last time they picked that high, they trade up to number 10 to pick the guy that ensured that they're never going to pick that high again as long as he's on the team. So you don't have access to going and getting that guy, like that polished, day one, nailed on, this guy is our left tackle, and he's going to be our left tackle for the next decade, like a Joe Alt is. That's why the Chiefs took the swing they took with Kingsley Suamataia in the second round last year. The tool set was there. It's one of those things where you look at a player and the projection is really good, but too much or not enough polish, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Too raw. He was not polished enough. He got played off the field by Trey Hendrickson in week 2, and we never really saw him again at left tackle. What if the Chiefs had been a little more patient? What if the Chiefs had just ridden out the 2024 season with Kingsley at left tackle and been willing to take their lumps? Because the immediate replacement wasn't good enough. Like Wanye Morris was no better than Kingsley Suamataia, functionally the same player. The Chiefs offense didn't get to a place where it felt functional until Joe Thuney stepped in and started playing left tackle. And again, that was functional. That held until it didn't.
Mm-hmm.
What if they just stuck with Suamataia and been willing to take whatever lumps they would have had to take with the rookie instead of, well, let's give Wanya Morris a go. And even if they'd given Wanya Morris a go, it was evident like 2 weeks in, like, yeah, this isn't an appreciable upgrade here. And the ceiling is higher for a guy like Kingsley, who, again, you're talking about a young guy with real raw talent, less polished than a guy coming in like Wanya Morris from Oklahoma, but maybe more physical tools, maybe more projectable ability. What if they just stuck with him? Does the 2024 season look any different? All the way down to getting rolled in the Super Bowl by a team that dominated you at the line of scrimmage. Does it look any different if Kingsley had just been the left tackle for 17 games?
No. I don't think it does. And I guess my question is, how much of what the Chiefs did over the course, like, where would the Chiefs have improved in terms of like team success during the year? They won 15 games.
Yeah, they won 15.
And the game, one of the games they lost was a punt. Like, they should have just forfeited and saved the gas in the airplanes. Like, there was no point even playing that game.
Limited their carbon footprint.
And yeah, like, the offense wasn't great. I still believe the biggest reason why the offense suffered, and it didn't even really suffer. Like, they scored plenty. They just never cracked 30 until the playoffs. I still think that losing Rashee Rice was a bigger deal than anything that happened on the offensive line. I truly do believe that. Now, the offensive line wasn't good. As good as you expected it to be. Let me put it that way. I don't know how much changes. Maybe things click at the right time, and like week 13, suddenly, he figured it out. He's got it now. The game has slowed down for him, whatever you want to say, and it works out that way. I think the probability of that happening was really low, however. And I liked the draft pick. I liked playing him right away. I'm glad he won the starting job. I also understood why they didn't go back to him. I don't know if much functionally changes, and I do not think the Super Bowl changes. And that's the hard thing about that question is, like, they got their ass destroyed in the Super Bowl. Like, it wasn't, oh, man, if they had avoided that 3rd and 10 sack in the fourth quarter. Nah, man, they took their lunch money and hung them upside down from the flagpole and gave them poorly, like, red belly. Yeah, like that. I mean, that was an ass beating. So I just don't know if that one move would have done enough to change things.
Like, you could
but
see...
I'm open to giving him another try at the job.
I think they've probably moved on. I think the organization... From Kingsley? Yeah, I think they're now thinking he's a guard. Like, I don't have any, like, evidence. I wasn't on the phone with Andy Reid last night talking to him about Kingsley Suamataia. But the fact that they played him at guard in that last regular season game tells me that was like, hey, let's see how you look in here. Let's see how you look on the interior. I do think that Suamataia's skill set may fit as a guard, that he maybe plays with some nastiness, and maybe with another year as an apprentice to a future Hall of Famer in Joe Thuney, then Kingsley's maybe your starting left guard in 2026. And I don't think that's a bad outcome for a late second round draft pick. But I do wonder if they just ridden it out with Suamataia, if they'd be in a different spot this offseason, because that is a position that they find themselves needing to fill, and there just aren't a lot of really great options. And the guys who are the best free agent names still have question marks. Like, Cam Robinson is an upgrade from what the Chiefs rolled out there last year. Ronnie Stanley is an upgrade from what the Chiefs rolled out there last year. But are you willing to pay that kind of money for a free agent left tackle if it's going to cost you? Maybe that's the reason you don't retain Nick Bolton, or that's the reason you don't retain Justin Reed. You're already spending. The Chiefs are already spending, with Trey Smith now officially on the franchise tag as of today. No team in the NFL is spending more money on their offensive line than the Chiefs. No team in the league. They're up near $100 million outlaid on their offensive line, and that is with a vacancy at the most important position. So the Chiefs understand how important it is to invest. And I just can't believe that they would cheap out in such a way that they would say, yeah, sure, Donovan Smith, 1 year, $1 million, and that'll be fine.
One thought about Suamataia and his future, if the Chiefs do believe he's a guard and the heir apparent for Joe Thuney, that is not a lot of football over a long period of time before ushering him into that role. And I don't, like, I think he could be good at it. And you're right. Like, if you ended up with a starting guard with the second to last pick of the second round, yeah, I mean, you're feeling pretty good about yourself. But I mean, he had to play a bunch in the Denver game, that 16-14, when he played 46 snaps in that game. He played, obviously, in the game against Denver at the end of the year as well. Other than that, he didn't play more than 4 snaps on offense between week 3 and week 17. And then if he's playing a full-time backup swing guard role this year with Smith right, Tooney left, he only played 23 games in 3 years in college. Like, that's not a lot of football at all, which, to be fair, that then also lends some credence to your point that you got to let the guy learn on the job a little bit.
Which is a harder thing to do when your goal is win a Super Bowl.
Yes.
Like, that is why you do not see teams sometimes in a position that the Chiefs are in take on project players. Because you're just not going to get them the playing time. You're going to have a shorter leash, and you're just not going to have the opportunity for them. So that's just something that I will probably think about that for the entirety of Kingsley Suamata'ia's tenure with the Chiefs. Like, what if they just stuck with him at left tackle? And that may be something I think about next year if whoever the Chiefs left tackle is has a particularly bad game. It'll just be a what if. We're going to take a break here on 580 Sports Talk. But before we do, I want to tell you about my friends at Great Life here in Topeka. Got this blizzard coming through. That really puts a damper on my plans to get out and play some golf here early in the month of March. But I'm excited to hit the 5 outstanding Great Life golf courses around the Topeka area. We've also got 7 great fitness centers. There's one near you if you live in the greater Topeka area, and the membership benefits are outstanding. But don't take my word for it. Go to greatlifetopeka.com to learn more and be a member like me, and maybe I'll see you out on the course this spring and summer. What is Wrong with You is next on 580 Sports Talk. So what is wrong with you time on 580 Sports Talk, sponsored by our guy Mo. State Farm agent Ryan Mowinkle. Give his website a try, ryanmowinkle.com, and see what Mowinkle Insurance and Financial Services can do for you. Our current weekly champion, the text line dubbed him the Double D drunk driver, gentleman who was obliterated drunk driving home from a Super Bowl party and FaceTiming with his girlfriend who was flashing him while he drove onto some railroad tracks. He made it off the tracks. His car did not.
Listen, man, when you need it, you need it. Okay, I get it.
Yeah, like,
I understand.
Listen, we've all been in our 20s.
But, bro, like, you're driving, you're blurry-eyed, and it's FaceTime. Like, you're not getting bang for your buck here. I'm just going to tell you that flat out. You're not.
Not coincidentally, that was why he was driving so fast, right?
Yeah.
Get where you want to go. Anyhow, we got 2 new stories today. I will go first. We're going to my home state of Colorado, and we go to the suburb of Commerce City, where police arrested a convicted felon after he was caught on camera waving a gun around in a Walmart. February 16th, around 8 p.m., Commerce City police responded to the call at the Walmart near Pioneer Park. According to police, suspect was seen on surveillance footage waving the gun in the store and then placing it in a backpack. Body camera video shows officers confronting the suspect in the store. The suspect begins to reach for that backpack, and he is immediately apprehended. Police said even if the suspect was carrying the gun legally, which they said he wasn't, it is illegal to brandish a firearm in a threatening way for no reason. Initially, police said the suspect was facing a charge of unlawfully carrying a concealed firearm. However, police learned he was a convicted felon and is facing an additional charge of possession of a weapon by a previous offender. The Commerce City Police Department took to Facebook to say, quote, "Don't be waving a gun around in Walmart. Just another don't do it here."
No, that's good advice. Do not wave a gun around at Walmart.
I just like what made that person's brain decide I'm gonna flex with this gun in the Walmart, the middle of a Walmart.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, dude, they sell guns at Walmart. You're not special.
Like, there's nothing notable about Commerce City other than that's where the Rapids Stadium is, the MLS team. Like, I guess that's the fun thing to do in Commerce City. Go to the Walmart and flash the heater.
Do they sell guns at Colorado Walmarts?
That's a great question. I've never been to the gun aisle of a Colorado Walmart, one way or another.
I mean, they used to sell them in most state Walmarts.
Yeah, different laws, different places,
Spencer Dupuis, you have a story.
Yes, I do. I am in the saddle here. I have a story, and it has another connection to me. It's in Huntington, West Virginia, where I went to college.
There we go. Are you in the story?
No.
Do you know this guy?
No.
Okay.
A man was arrested in Huntington early Thursday morning riding a bicycle while carrying drugs, a gun, and a backpack containing explosive, court records show. Christopher Osborne, 47, was taken into custody after police noticed him riding a bike along the 800 block of 3rd Street without apparent lights on the bicycle before attempting to evade authorities, according to a criminal complaint filed in the Cabell County Magistrate Court. The complaint said Osborne began pedaling faster and attempting to flee before police activated the lights and sirens. The man led the police on a chase down several blocks before wrecking his bike along the 900 block of West 3rd Street. When Huntington police approached Osborne, he was bleeding from his head, and he admitted to having a gun and methamphetamine on him. Police secured the pistol and searched the man when they discovered drugs in his pant pocket and paraphernalia in his shirt pocket. Authorities took the backpack to the Huntington Police Headquarters, where it was searched, and inside, police found 2 items, red and white wire, attached with labels that spelled dangerous, blasting caps, and explosives.
Was he Wile E. Coyote? Did he go to like Acme to purchase these things?
As well as the label of a chemical company. Osborne faces charges of possessing explosive materials, possession of a controlled substance.
Guns, drugs, and explosives. That's
all while riding a bike.
That's a typical Thursday night in Thursday morning in Huntington, West Virginia.
Hey, it's a typical townie. I'll leave it at that.
I'm going to go with this one. We don't get homemade explosives very often.
No.
I'm going to go with this one today.
Yeah, I definitely lean with this one on a bicycle early in the morning.
But I'm going to stick with the Double D drunk driver. They ain't worth it, man. Get home first.
Pixelated boobs on FaceTime, because in LaPorta, Indiana, they don't get great 5G running through that.
No,
town.
They got that LTE.
You're not seeing those in 4K. Just wait till you get to the house. As Spencer said yesterday, they're better in person.
Yeah.
Wait till you get the actual FaceTime and other kinds of time with your girlfriend. Also, don't be that drunk. Little 0.273.
Like, how is he alive?
A great question. That's what is wrong with you. Brought to you by State Farm agent Ryan Mowinkle. Check out his website, ryanmowinkle.com. Michael Swain, fog.net, joins us next for Jayhawk Weekly. Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, joined us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline every Tuesday at this time. We call it Jayhawk Weekly. Go read Michael's work at Fog.net. Become a VIP subscriber to 24/7 Sports today to get all of his VIP info. Michael, what was your main takeaway from KU's loss to Houston last night?
Oh, man. I think it was another game in a very long line of games this year where KU has really struggled to get over the hump. And this has been a huge issue, I think, for most of this calendar year, right? I think you can go back to a few games, specifically games KU's lost, that they are able to stay in these games with the elite teams of college basketball right now, and you cannot call Kansas an elite team. And you go back to the Iowa State game, right, in mid-January, and KU was able to get it close after halftime, but just they can't get over the hump. They can't get that final run to retake the lead. You go back to any number of recent games, right, the first Houston game in overtime, right, KU actually is able to get itself in a position to win the game, but it can't make the clutch plays, to close out over the first overtime. And the second overtime, they fall flat. There have been a lot of these games over the course of conference play where KU has just not been able to get those key plays at key moments. And last night's just another example. You can look at any number of those turnovers in the final few minutes. One of the first many last days ago plays from a team that can't afford those, right? If you're up by 15 and 20, in a position where it is just out talenting people, they have to out execute teams. And right now, KU is unable to make those key plays at key times to put themselves in a position to control the game. And as a result, you have to go on these big stretches where you have to take advantage of what the other team does, and KU just has not been able to do that. And last night's just another example of it.
Do they strike you right now as a team that lacks confidence in some ways? That's what I see when I watch Kansas. And I'm not asking this question so you can say, "Oh, wow, Dan, you're so right." Amazing observation by Dan. But like, what do you see when you watch this team play that has kept them from not being able to out execute, not being able to finish games? Like, they have lost some games this year that they won for years and years, and this year's team doesn't. What do you think the primary issue is?
Wow, Dan, great observation there.
Thank you. Thank you.
No,
no, don't need to say it, but it'd be nice.
No, you're totally right, though, right? I think there's no better example than Zeke Mayo right now. And you watched the game last night, and if you were to go back and watch what Zeke was doing in early January, non-conference play, man, he looks like a shell of himself. Not confident, hesitating, too many pump fakes, not attacking. I just think there's so much hesitation across the board for KU right now. And it's not only Zeke, right? I think you could say the same thing for someone like DeJuan Harris, maybe even a little bit for Rylan Griffin at times. Like, I think the guy that really right now is playing with a ton of confidence and isn't hesitating is KJ Adams, right? He has played so well over kind of the last 1, 2, 3 games. And why hasn't KU won the games that they've typically won? Well, I think it comes down to a couple things. This team is not the toughest Kansas team I think any KU fan has ever seen, and certainly that I've covered, in the last 7, 8 years that I've been around the program. And I think that hurts. Houston was the tougher team last night. 17 more rebounds than Kansas, right? They had 30-something total more opportunities between turnovers forced and offensive rebounds than Kansas. That's not Kansas basketball, right? How many years has it been that KU dominates on the glass? They're a team that gets pressure on the opponent. They're able to get out and transition, get those easy points. And for KU, they just don't execute. And so you get to this point where KU is a team, they don't shoot the three really well. They don't really shoot threes at all. They don't get to the free throw line. They don't force turnovers. So what does it come down to score the basketball? Well, they've got to execute. And they just aren't executing. And they really, really have struggled with that for most of the season where, there's obviously, I think, the clips of Bill Self with his head in his hands going around right now. Man, I've lost track of the amount of times that Bill Self has had that reaction. It is every game that he's reacting to plays his players make like that. And that's a coach that is just like, what in the world are you thinking? And so KU, as a result of that, it just is so hard to win these college basketball games when you don't really turn the ball or force teams to turn the ball over. You don't really do a great job of consistently dominating the glass. You don't really make up for it with three-pointers. And so KU has to play such a fine margin kind of style of basketball that it's really hard to go and beat the elite teams of college basketball doing that. And they have to play a perfect game. And they played a perfect game against Houston the first time, and they let it slip. And I think last night's kind of just another example of one of those opportunities where KU did enough to be in the game. But their issue this year is they have not done enough to get over the hump. And I think that as a result of all these data points from the course of the season, right, that's going to hurt your confidence if you get into these positions and you're like, oh boy, here we go again. It's something that Lance Leipold talked a lot about when he first got to KU. He felt that around the culture at KU in that 2021 season. When things started to go against KU, he felt on the sideline, guys are like, oh man, here we go again. It's hard not to feel that way about KU basketball right now, looking at the way some of these games are ending.
It's not great to compare early Lance Leipold KU football to Bill Self basketball. That is not probably a place where this program wanted to be at the moment. We're talking to Michael Swain of Fog.net and 24/7 Sports. He joins us every Tuesday at this time for Jayhawk Weekly here on 580 Sports Talk via the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. To the Zeke Mayo point, the confidence is obviously struggling right now. Do you also worry, Michael, that maybe we're seeing a guy who is a good basketball player without question, but he's not a big guy by any means? He played 3 years of mid-major ball before transferring to KU. Does it feel like maybe the grind of the Big 12 season has started to get to him physically as well?
I think so. And I think so. Here's how I look at it. This Zeke Mayo has given Kansas more than I think Kansas expected. Right?
Yeah.
When KU's recruiting him, I don't think they thought, here's a guy that's going to play 28 minutes a game. He's going to be one of our most important guards. We're going to rely on him to score a bunch of Big 12 play in order just to be in games. Right? How many games in the course of January was KU in because of Zeke Mayo scoring? Right? So I think Zeke has been put in this position where he was asked to do too much. And that's a result of recruiting misses. That's a result of the way the roster has panned out this year, that he is having to have so much of an offensive burden when I don't think that was the initial intent when Kansas recruited him. So it's almost like you see sometimes, right, with freshmen where they have like the freshman wall when it's their first time going through, college basketball and the Big 12 play grind. Well, I think there is a bit of that. I think you make a good point. And I also think, too, Zeke has not looked the same since he had that little knee tweak, ankle tweak, whatever you want to call it, against Utah. And you can draw a direct line between kind of this recent slump right now and that happening. And so, right now we're in the time of year, every team, most players are going to have nicks, bruises, things going on that are really limiting them. And I think Zeke's at a point now where you can just see it. He doesn't have that same burst. He's not looking to get to the rim. He's not in the mix as much on the glass, right? There were games early in Big 12 play too where he did a great job on the glass. Last night he was beat for several offensive rebounds, right? There's just not that same level of energy, competitiveness on the glass that maybe was early in the year. And I think that goes back to a guy that looks a little worn down over the course of the season. And I think also it's hard not to draw a line to that injury against Utah.
We know that Diggy Coit has come out and said that with what we expect will be an extra year of eligibility thanks to the Diego Pavia injunction on the college football side of things, that he would like to come back to KU. Do you think Bill Self should want Diggy Coit back for another year?
I think so. And that's always a question, right? I think we've seen in the past, it's a funny exercise. Season ends. Players are asked, hey, do you want to come back? Players say, yeah, of course, because it's Kansas, right? Who wouldn't want to go back to Kansas? Doesn't always end up like that. I think Bill Self should want David Coit back because, first of all, KU's going to have 14 roster spots next year. It's a lot of spots to fill. I think David Coit's mentality is something Kansas needs more of. He's not afraid, right? He misses a shot. Okay, whatever. He thinks the next shot's going to go in. And I think his ability to create off the dribble, I think now that he has been acclimated to Big 12 play, right? I think he's someone that when Big 12 play started, his shots were short. He looked like a guy that was really struggling to find himself. I think now that he's experienced this level and he knows what it takes, I think he looks like a guy that is a useful player. And if you look next year and say, okay, hey, maybe KU goes to the portal, gets some guard help for Darren Peterson. Maybe there's some player attention with someone like Ryan Griffin or Rickey's Passmore. Hey, going into next year, maybe David Coit's your 8th or 9th man. You feel pretty good about that, especially with the fact that he's a great culture guy. He's a vocal leader, and he's someone that really works hard. And if you have one of those guys that is helping lead the way for your team off the court, I think that's a huge thing because KU needs more vocal leaders. I think that's an aspect of this year's team that is missing, right? There aren't a lot of guys that are, vocal leaders. And I think having someone like David Coit back for a second year when he's been around the program, he knows what the expectations are. He knows all that stuff. I think having someone like that in the locker room can be a very valuable thing.
On the football side, real quick, Michael, as spring practice gets going for KU, give me one player on either side of the ball who you think by the time spring is over, we're going to have heard a lot about that's going to, make the most positive progress during spring this year.
Yeah, so I think Emmanuel Henderson at wide receivers one I'd go with just because he's a name that's come up a couple times now in the first kind of week you've been back around the football team. Look, being in practice, man, like you can see why he played at Alabama. tall, long, athletic, is just looks like a freak. And he is someone that at wide receiver, I think we've talked about when he committed, right? There's a huge range of outcomes because he's not played, a ton of in-game reps at wide receiver. If he figures it out, he's a guy that could be KU's wide receiver 1. And so that's going to be the key over the course of spring. But in terms of, hey, first couple practices, off-season workouts, some of the stuff they're able to do now with a little bit of kind of 11 on 0 that they're able to do, it sounds like he's starting on the right foot. Defensively, that's a lot harder, man. There's a lot of names we could go with. If you want a defensive lineman, I think Dean Miller and Blake Harrell are going to keep coming up. Linebacker is going to be really interesting because there's so many new faces, and then you've got some young guys that are trying to break through. I'm really interested to see what happens there. It's hard to really pinpoint one of defense, guys. There's so many new players there that are going to have to get acclimated over the course of spring ball. So that's what's going to make this spring really interesting, right? Trying to figure out, who are some of those guys that are starting to take those strides to start getting themselves in a position to win, starting battles in the fall. So it's going to make for a really interesting spring.
Michael Swain covers Kansas athletics for Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Subscribe today. Be a VIP subscriber to get all of Michael's inside info from basketball, football, all other KU sports. And you can check him out on the Flaming Place Wine Spirits hotline every Tuesday for Jayhawk Weekly. Michael, always a pleasure. We'll do it again next week.
Awesome. Sounds great, guys. Talk to you next week.
That is Michael Swain. We will step aside for one more timeout. Come back, wrap up this 4 o'clock hour, 580 Sports Talk after this.
Consumers owing at least $10,000 in credit card debt or personal loans can now take advantage of this debt relief as the cost of living skyrockets. Debt Relief Advocates has established a relief hotline for you to call to learn what debt reduction you may qualify for, so don't wait. For this free information, call the relief hotline at 800-303-1219. 800-303-1219. 800-303-1219.
Jackson Hewitt wants you to save money on tax prep. We're saving money by having our intern Brad read this commercial. Don't stress. Jackson Hewitt's got expert tax prep, 149 or less. No, some tax guys lie about price. They got hidden fees, that ain't nice. Don't ignore execute the price. Use this deal for a limited time. 149 for tax prep with $149 or less. Hurry into Jackson Hewitt today. Lifetime offer for new clients of federal returns. Participating
not to be dramatic, but you should smell this. Smells so good.
Whoa, that's quite the reaction to mixing and matching Gain scents. Let's hear another from Ashley, who mixed Gain products and went,
I'm so excited.
yes, you are. What about you, Isaiah?
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and Emily summed it up like so.
It's just chef's kiss.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Mix, match, more happy with Gain.
WIBW, Topeka.
Our thanks again to Michael Swain for joining us for Jayhawk Weekly. Texture for the 785 makes a good point regarding Zeke Mayo. Really wasn't brought to the program to start. He was brought to the program to be a sixth man.
Yeah, no, and I hadn't thought about that in quite a while, but Michael kind of alluded to that. And that's true. And I do. I think he has given more to KU than was expected of him.
I agree.
It's just unfortunate that now, end of the year, things are even more tense than they've been all season. He's starting to hit a wall.
Yeah,
that's tough.
Yeah, man, and I do think some of it is injury related as well. That's going to do it for me today. I'm heading out to Washburn Rural for some high school basketball. We've got a doubleheader tonight on the 580 Preps Road to a Championship. First, 6A West boys action. Washburn Rural taking on Wichita West. Yours truly and Larry Latimer on the call. When we're done, we'll join Seaman girls against Topeka West in progress with Spencer Dupuis, Mike's side, up at Seaman High School in North Topeka. Coverage getting started at about 5:40 here this afternoon. So we've got one more 40-minute segment, not an hour, not a half hour, something in between, of 580 Sports Talk coming up. And on that segment of 580 Sports Talk, we got our 580 Sports Talk headlines. Talk a little about the Royals. Some rumors percolating that they are still in pursuit of a outfield bat and who those players are that the Royals are pursuing. So that's all coming up. So stay with us. We've got the 5 o'clock hour-ish of 580 Sports Talk next.
For news, sports, weather, and ag on the Voice of Kansas, FM 104.9, 580 AM, WIBW, Topeka.
I'm Kathy McCormick. President Trump's tariffs on Mexico and Canada have set off a trade war. Canada launching retaliatory tariffs. Prime Minister Trudeau brought that down from effect. Calling our country and the well-being of everyone in it is at stake. He also warned it could get uglier.
To my fellow Canadians, I won't sugarcoat it. This is going to be tough.
In the U.S., too, correspondent Chris greetings in Toronto.
Ontario powers about 1.5 million homes and businesses in New York, Michigan, and Minnesota, but that could soon cost customers in those states a lot more. The province is threatening a 25% surcharge on that exported power if Donald Trump's tariffs drag on through the spring. If that doesn't work, Ontario is warning the governors of those states they won't hesitate to shut off their power completely.
Americans could start to feel the impacts first from Mexico. CBS's Jules Lessing.
So much of our fruits and vegetables, they come from Mexico. I think that's where we start to see the prices jump pretty quickly with perishable items.
There was a
also expected to lay out his vision for the country, including efforts to end the war in Gaza. The speech comes as Trump's job approval ratings have dipped.
Ukrainian President Zelensky posted today that he regrets the shouting match in the Oval Office last week. Correspondent Lisa Jang reports his comments come as President Trump pauses assistance to Ukraine.
He also praised the president's leadership and talked about how he is ready to find a quick end to the war. And so we'll have to see whether Trump hears that message and decides to resume aid, and also decides to put the minerals deal back on the table, which of course he yanked off after he and Zelensky and Vance had that very public confrontation.
Arab leaders today endorsed Egypt's post-war plan for Gaza. It would allow Palestinians to remain in the territory while it is rebuilt. This is CBS News.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get the parts and service you need fast from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Kansas Information Network News. I'm Lisa Buckman. Sedgwick County's election commissioner is advocating for changes to the special election process.
Election Commissioner Laura Rainwater testified to state lawmakers were telling them that special elections held outside normal primary and general election time is confusing to most voters.
Everybody who gets temporarily reassigned for these special elections, they get a letter of how many people open those, and we still have voters show up at their everyday polling place for the primary and general, and then have to vote provisional.
Take the Wichita school bond election, for instance. Rainwater said the normal polling sites they used in August and November were not available.
Hayesville police are identifying the victim of a deadly shooting. 19-year-old Brian Morales Sanchez Wichita was shot inside his vehicle before crashing into a home on 8th Street. This is Kansas Information Network.
When challenging conditions arise, we don't back down. We up our game. Outpacing the competition with innovations fueled by Bayer's R&D, keeping you equipped with an expanded portfolio, elite genetics, and additional local test plots. Channel leads the field, so you can rise above. See how you can save at channel.com/finance24. Read and follow pesticide label directions, spray marketing, and other stewardship practices.
Hi everyone, Tom Mustin here, Legal Help Center. If you or a loved one injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up, because we have legal professionals standing by right now to answer your questions for free. You'll find out if you have a case and how much money it's potentially worth. Call 800-460-3550. That's 800-460-3550. The call is free, the consultation is free, and you can speak with a live agent 24/7. So if you or someone you know were injured in an accident of any kind, take advantage of this opportunity and speak with a live agent right now. Find out if you have a case and how much money you potentially get. Call 800-460-3550. That's 800-460-3550. 800-460-3550. Call now. Advertising sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in other states.
Here's your updated forecast on 580 WIBW. A high wind warning continues. A blizzard warning begins at 8 p.m. tonight. Storms likely this afternoon. Otherwise, mainly cloudy skies expected. Highs around 63. Winds out of the north 10 to 20 miles an hour. Lows dip down to about 28 tonight. A mixture of precipitation likely. About an inch of snow tonight. I'm at your District Alert in the Capitol Federal Weather Center. Currently 50.
Stay connected with breaking news on WIBW.
Hey now, it's the final hour of 580 Sports Talk here on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and also on YouTube. 580 Sports Talk is the name of the YouTube channel. I am Brendan Dworzinski. Joining me, Spencer Dupuis. We are here with you until 5:40 today. That is our window for Sports Talk today. We're with you until 5:40, which is when we are going to send you on the road to a championship. Dan Lucero and the coach Larry Latimer on site not their like you're going to see each other and fight on site, but they are on site at the House of Blues, the Washburn Rural Activity Center tonight for some sub-state basketball action. That is game 1 of our doubleheader. We are going to join Spencer Dupuis in Progress this evening. He will be there for some women's basketball. We've got the boys first, the girls second tonight. We'll join Spencer's game between Seaman and Topeka West in Progress this evening. How are we feeling? First time you've called the game since November?
Yeah, since the Washburn
games.
Since those Washburn women's basketball games up in Minnesota, yeah.
How'd the prep go? How'd the studying go?
Not bad.
It's going to be fun.
It's going to be fun. Also, I feel like these teams are, like high school basketball, I feel like is so much easier to prep for than college. Because most teams only play a certain amount of players.
Sure, yeah.
Like you have like players from your JV team up for your playoffs or whatever, but like you're only playing this amount of people. Like in college, I think it's really bad. You're really picking. Like I remember at the end of one of the Washburn games, like it was their first game of the year, but you were like probably not going to play, and then like 2 players ended up playing.
It happens sometimes.
But yeah, so like it's been pretty easy. I'm a little happy because this weather is coming.
Yeah. Happy about the bad weather?
No, I'm happy that I live closer now to my destination tonight than I did a month ago.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's like a 5-minute drive compared to a 20-minute drive when I exit the place tonight.
So we've got high school hoops coming up tonight, doubleheader. Dan has the call of Washburn Rural and Wichita West alongside Larry Latimer, and then we will join Spencer in Progress for girls action. First game is boys, second game girls, Seaman versus Topeka West. So coming up in this final 40-ish minutes, now 32 minutes of 580 Sports Talk, we've got our headlines today, bunch of NFL notes to get to, among other things. We'll talk some Royals baseball. We'll get you a final word as well. We will also get you... we'll get your thoughts on whatever we're talking about on the show today via the text line, 785-272-9429. And you can also check us out on YouTube. 580 Sports Talk is the name of the YouTube channel. At last check, we had lost a subscriber. We went down to 731.
Yeah. Well,
someone unsubscribed.
We're still at 69 to go.
69 to go. Not nice that somebody unfollowed us. So if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube, go check it out. Dan and I are going to arm wrestle when we get to 800. That's serious. If you're just joining us, yes, indeed, we are going to arm wrestle. And I'm going to win. Although we have to figure out how we're going to do it because I'm right-handed and he's left-handed. So it will never be strength on strength.
You're going to do 2 rounds.
What do we do if we tie? We're gonna actually wrestle? We can get the squared circle out here? We're going to box?
I mean, I don't know.
Judo?
That's a great question because, like, if you do 1-1, like, one's probably going to win, the other one's. So I don't know.
Yeah, we're going to have to figure that out. So we'll talk about that. But yeah, get us up to 800 subscribers and we'll get that all figured out. All right, Spencer, let's get to today's 580 Sports Talk headlines. I am going to start locally today. We'll get to a bunch from the NFL here in just a few moments, but we are going to start with the all MIAA honors for men's and women's basketball. The MIAA tournament begins tomorrow at Municipal Auditorium in Kansas City, and the 2 Washburn teams finished with such high seeds, they do not need to play on the opening day of the MIAA tournament. Both have a first-round bye. The women will play their first game not until Friday. The men will play on Thursday at noon. More on that in a little bit. The women were announced first, so let's get to the women's honorees for today. 2 Ichabods picked up second team all MIAA honors. That includes Bari Widauda as well as Peyton Stirk, both absolutely deserving. If you said, hey, are they 2 of the 10 best players in the conference? Yeah, no question. And could you have made an argument for first team for both of them? Yeah, you could have. There's a very senior-laden league this year. The 5 first-team picks on the women's side of things, graduate student, senior, senior, senior. Everybody out of eligibility this year. It is an old conference. Washburn, extremely young team, which makes it even more amazing that the Ichabods got the 5 seed in the tournament this year on the women's side. So Bari is a second-team pick. She is also on the MIAA all-defensive team this year. She's had a great season, picked up another double-double the other night. She has just been sensational, 7 of them on the year now. Peyton Stirk, first year at the program. Not only is she second team all league, she is also the co-newcomer of the year next to Reese Schaff at Central Missouri. Schaff was an All-American last year, second team All-America at Drury, and Peyton Stirk ties her for co-newcomer of the year. Absolutely awesome. Could not be happier for both Peyton and Bari. Could have made an argument for a few of the Washburn women getting an honorable mention as well, but very, very excited for the two of them. Could not possibly deserve it more. As for the Washburn men, you want to talk about a haul today.
The big haul.
In postseason awards. All 5 starters for Washburn received a postseason all-conference award this year.
That's what happens when you go undefeated for like a good portion of the regular season.
When you win 22 straight?
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding. Win the league outright for the first time in 21 years. Right now in position to host the regional weekend of the NCAA tournament. First off, Brett Ballard, MIAA Coach of the Year. And I'm going to tell you this right now. Brett Ballard is your national coach of the year. There shouldn't be a debate. There shouldn't be a discussion. Brett Ballard has got to be your national coach of the year in Division II. Easy win for him, obviously, for MIAA Coach of the Year this year. On the all-defensive team, a pair of Ichabods, Jacob Hanna and Michael Keegan. For Mike, awesome year, awesome career. He is getting darn close to setting the Washburn record for starts in a career, at least in the NCAA era since 1990. Jacob Hanna, you want to talk about a good day? You want to talk about a great addition? I've been saying all year on Ichabod broadcasts, this is the single most impactful transfer in college basketball relative to quality of player, quality of team joining, and how good that team became afterward. Washburn was going to be good regardless. You had Jacob Hanna. This team is damn good this year. All defensive team, first team all conference, conference defensive player of the year, and the MIAA newcomer of the year for Jacob Hanna. Absolutely awesome. Great kid. Couldn't be more excited for him in his first year with the program. Also, first team all MIAA for Washburn, Jack Batchelor, Topeka's own, the Washburn Rural product. So cool for Jack. Just a sophomore, and he is first team all MIAA. On the second team, Braden Shorter, who's the Ichabod's leading scorer this year, top 5 in the conference in scoring, number 1 in the league, top 5 in the country in three-pointers made this year, Braden Shorter. On the third team, Andrew Orr, his 3rd consecutive year with an all MIAA honor. I talked about this with Brett Ballard on the coaches show last night at Skinny's. AO is better. Like, there are not 10 players in the MIAA better than Andrew Orr. There just aren't. And I don't really think that is even that much. Like, I don't think there's an argument for that. He is, without question, one of the 10 best players in the MIAA. You could argue for second team. You could argue for first team. But he has sacrificed a lot of individual statistics to help out the team, to get other guys some shine. It has worked out perfectly for this group. So a huge salute to AO, third team all MIAA, 3rd straight year on an all-conference team this year. So those are your MIAA honors this year for Washburn. Congratulations to the Ichabods. Still a lot of work to do. Got, essentially, Coach Ballard told me, got 3 tournaments. You got the MIAA tournament, you got the regional weekend, you got the Elite 8. 3 more chances to make a huge run here and to cement yourself as an all-time great Washburn season. And MIAA tournament for the men starts on Thursday at noon. The women coming up Friday at 6 o'clock. Spencer.
I'm dumb. I have a question.
Yes.
Because I think you've talked about this.
Hit me with it.
I did not realize that, if I'm not mistaken, Division III basketball has a tournament like the Division I. Is that correct?
Yes.
But Division II doesn't?
Yeah. Division III has some regional elements to it, but it's much more of a national tournament. Yes.
They have a big old bracket to start it, because I just saw it last night on X.
Yeah.
I just don't understand Division II.
It doesn't make any amount of sense. And you this is not the first time you've covered a DC team. You covered Shepherd for years. Like, how does it make sense? This year, for example, okay? And I'm picking up the slack for Jake LeBon, who complained about this every single year in the postseason. This year, it is very possible that there's one MIAA school that gets into the NCAA tournament. If Washburn wins the conference tournament, it will be the only school that gets in from the MIAA. There will only be one school from the GAC, the Great American Conference, that gets in. Southern Nazarene or whoever ends up winning that conference tournament. The NSIC, the Northern Sun, Minnesota, the Dakotas, Iowa, they will possibly get 6 teams in the conference.
Jeez.
So they're going to play their conference tournament. It wraps up tonight, in fact, their conference tournament. And then they're essentially going to play another conference tournament in the regional round. That doesn't make any sense. How are you going to determine a national champion if all across the country you've got teams playing a bunch of rematches? You could theoretically, one of those Northern Sun teams, and it's been like this for the MIAA before, you could theoretically have a fourth matchup of the year happen in the NCAA tournament. That's insane. That is absolutely ridiculous, to be frankly. Like, Washburn should be playing some crummy school from, like, the ECC, the East Coast Conference.
Yeah.
Like, that's who Washburn should be playing, not a team from the highest graded conference in America in the second round. Then SIC, MIAA has come in second this year, according to Massey.
I just
it's
don't understand.
Ludicrous.
I did not realize that D3 did it like D1.
The schools
that was
that
my
don't
whole
even
thing
give
was I
athletic
just
scholarships.
I just assumed D3 did it like D2 and it was like a lower tier from D1 thing, but it's not.
NAIA does a true national tournament. It's ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous. All right, Spencer, let's get some other headlines.
Yeah, from ESPN.com, the Vikings don't place franchise tag on quarterback Sam Darnold. They're still interested in working to re-sign him, whether that be a short-term deal or a long-term deal. Darnold's agents will be able to negotiate with other teams starting Monday at noon Eastern when the legal tampering period begins.
If I'm Sam Darnold, I don't know that I would imagine there's a market for Sam Darnold. I think a couple of teams would improve their situation. I don't think he's great. Obviously, it depends on the coach he's working with. You know, with Kevin O'Connell, it was great because Kevin O'Connell is a tremendous offensive mind. Like, I don't think Sam Darnold makes a lot of sense in New York because I don't.
Well, New York's already got a plan.
The Giants?
Yeah.
Trading up?
No, they're getting Aaron Rodgers.
I will bet you. I do not think they're getting Aaron Rodgers. I think that'd be so. Maybe they will. I guess it's possible. I've seen whispers that they're going to trade up.
Yeah.
And try to go get Cam Ward, which, yeah, best of luck to you there. I think the Raiders make a lot of sense with Chip Kelly, who always says he doesn't need a playmaker. He just needs a guy who can get the ball from point A to point B. If you really handhold Sam Darnold like that, I think he could have a really good, productive year for the Raiders. I don't know why he would want to go back unless he doesn't have a market. I assume he will. I would be surprised if he goes back to the Vikings. If you go back and watch some of what Kevin O'Connell said at the Combine, some of what he said during his end-of-season press conference, it's a lot of, we had a great year with Sam. We really enjoyed this experience with Sam. We're looking forward to the offseason with JJ McCarthy. Like, it sounds so final, and I know things can change, especially if he takes a cheap contract, but I would be surprised if he goes back to Minnesota.
Yeah, no, I think a fit like the Raiders might be a team for him.
I like that fit a lot. I think that makes, now, granted, the Raiders need a lot of help. They need pass catchers. Their line's fine. They've got a new coaching staff, obviously, but I think that makes a lot of sense. Honestly.
You pitch Sam Darnold with Brock Bowers.
Brock Bowers would get 200 targets.
Yeah.
200 targets. What's the record for targets in a season? I'll have to look that up. You want to get some other of these NFL headlines?
Yeah. Next one. We knew this was coming. The Jets continued their overhaul. They've released Davante Adams after they couldn't figure out a way to trade him. Shocker. Nobody's going to trade for a guy that would be his third trade in 3 seasons.
Yeah, with a $37 million
cap hit.
Yeah, it just makes a lot more sense to let him go. Do you know how many yards Davante Adams had this year?
Oh, I know, because the Commanders people have been wanting him. He had over 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns.
Over 1,000 yards this season. He's still really good.
Yeah.
He's a very good player, even though he's about to turn 33.
I just wonder what number he.
Good question.
Because, I wouldn't mind the Commanders to get him if the number's right.
No, I hear you.
I wouldn't have wanted them to trade for him because we already traded for Debo.
Right.
But I'm saying, if the number's right, why not bring him in for a 1-year deal? And if he has a great season, then he can go sign another 2-year contract
somewhere else. Yeah. No, I'm with you. He's got a skill set too. And, he's not a burner. He never has been. He's a route running technician and he's got well above average hands. He, I think, would make a lot of sense in Washington if they can make the cap. And you're right. If he's going to go and say, hey, no, I want 37 mil, Washington's got too many other spots they need to fill, right?
Yeah.
They're not going to pay him that.
Yeah.
I think the Chargers make a lot of sense. He said he would like to play on the West Coast again. Chargers need a receiver. Davante Adams paired with Ladd McConkey would be a lot of fun. I think that's a really good fit for him if they can afford him. I have been told and as an NFL owner. And I have been told by people I trust who cover the Packers and who are in northeastern Wisconsin that there is at least some mutual interest in a return to Green Bay. Not necessarily like he's going to do it. Not necessarily that's the Packers are locked in. That's what they feel like they have to do. I have just been told there's some mutual interest. So I think those three all would make a lot of sense. Chargers first, Packers, Commanders. I think would all make sense for Davante.
Yeah, I do too. Another headline, the Bears, they're getting an offensive guard. They have traded the Rams for Jonah Jackson. It's a 2025 sixth round pick. And to me, I look at this trade as if they're like bolstering their offensive line while sending back a sixth. It's essentially like the Commanders trading for Debo because it's the same cap hit nearly, and the picks are almost identical. One's going to be at the end of the fifth round, and one's going to be at the beginning of the sixth round.
I think the Commanders probably get more out of Debo than the Bears will get out of Jonah Jackson.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, I think this makes a lot of sense for both teams. The Rams gave him a huge contract. He was hurt. He didn't play well. He only played 4 games. He got paid something like the 6th most amount of money for a guard last year and played 4 games. And then they tried to get rid of him right away. Yeah. They knew it was a bad contract. The Bears need to make their offensive line better. They have to. And if they get a starting guard for a 6th round pick, even at a $17 million cap hit, you'll take that. The Bears need that. If they were closer to contending Chicago than they are now, I probably wouldn't like this deal because I don't think Jackson is worth that amount. But they have a ton of cap space. They need improvement somehow, some way. Go make the deal. I think it makes some sense for both teams.
Yeah, I mean, get the cap off the books for the Rams.
Yeah, and they could use the cap.
Yeah.
They need a little space.
Last one from around the NFL. The Cowboys are bringing back one of their own. They've re-signed Osa Odigizua.
I only know that because the website I used to blog for, I did defensive tackle profiles the year he came out in the draft. So I had to teach myself Osa Odigizua.
Yes. He signed a 4-year, $80 million deal to return to the Cowboys. Kind of surprising. I'd been hearing that they were going to let a lot of their guys walk, but I guess he's one of the guys they're not going to let walk.
Yeah, that's interesting. Next for them is Micah Parsons.
Yeah.
Got to figure out a contract with him. Odigizua
or he
is a
leaves
good player,
and goes to Washington next year.
Yeah.
Because he loves Dan Quinn. He loves talking about Dan Quinn.
I'm sure he does. All right, that's going to do it for today's 580 Sports Talk headlines. A lot from the NFL to get to. There were a couple others we didn't even touch on. Packers re-signed their kicker, Brandon McManus. Seahawks cut a bunch of reserve depth as well. Lots to get to. Legal tampering, Spence, 6 days.
Excited.
Almost there.
I'm more
tomorrow.
excited for this year than I've ever been.
I completely understand that.
Because we're going in and trying to build a team that can win.
Yes. A real contender.
Yeah.
I'm fired up for you. All right, let's get to a commercial break. When we come back, the Royals have been tied to a couple of veteran batters. We'll talk about Adam Duvall and Starling Marte on the other side of this break here on 580 Sports Talk.
guests the whole time?
Oh yeah, I know.
Keep your business in the know with the USPS Ground Advantage service. Visit USPS.com/in the know.
WIBW Topeka.
Brendan and Spencer here with you for 580 Sports Talk. About 12 more minutes on the show today. Then we'll give way to Dan Lucero and Larry Latimer, who have coverage of the road to a championship for high school basketball. Sub-state underway. Washburn Rural versus Wichita West boys coming up at 6 o'clock. That's when tip-off will occur. We'll go to pregame right about 5:40. Spencer Dupuis is heading up to Viking Gymnasium at Seaman High School for the Seaman girls taking on Topeka West. You've been to Viking Gymnasium before?
Not to the gym.
Okay.
Been to the
You've been to the
football
football
stadium
field. Yep.
a few times. I think 3 or 4 we went last year.
Yeah, we were
playoffs.
up there a number of times last year. Yeah, it's a cool arena. When you get there, you walk inside and you go up a little half staircase, grab your program, say, hey, I'm here with media, whatever. And then the court is dug out into the ground.
That's sick.
Yeah, so you enter at the top and then look down at kind of like have you been to Bramlage? You've been to Bramlage, right? Yeah, it's a little bit like that.
Except for I've only come in at Bramlage on the bottom.
Really?
Yeah, because Dan told me how
Interesting.
Dan has this way to get to the back media entrance where you have to go like you're falling down a hill, and it was very sketchy. I had to go behind maintenance trailers and stuff from where the parking.
What?
Yeah, and then when I left, I was like, I don't know where I am in comparison to where I parked. So I was like, I gotta go back out that way as well. So yeah, you come in.
I'm gonna have to ask him about this tomorrow.
So
I didn't know he had a whole
you come in the
map.
tunnel where the locker rooms are and where the media is.
Yeah.
You come in that door.
I've never
at the
done
top
that.
of the tunnel.
I've always just gone through the regular media entrance. There have actually been times where I've covered K-State games and I'll just go through a regular entrance. I don't know if it was the KU game one year or just another big game, but it was a huge student crowd. And I'm walking up to the door. I have my credential on. And one of the security folks who's, handling facilities says, hey, are you trying to get in? I said, yeah, I'm with I'm media. I'm just, whichever door's open, I'll go through. They say, oh, come here. They pull me through this huge group of students. And I can hear people behind me go, hey, what? What the heck? I was like, I'm working media. And then I just go in on the, the quote unquote ground floor. And I walk down the stairs into the bowl.
Yeah. I mean, I could have done that because there was nobody at this game last year against West Virginia. But yeah, so it was really weird. So I walked in as if I was a player.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's really funny.
And then but it was nice because the media food room was there and then the media after game was there.
Sure.
And then the little workroom was right. It was all right there.
Yeah.
But getting from my car to that was the most adventurous thing in the world. I almost fell. I'd use my phone flashlight leaving because it's it comes down. There's a fence that comes down and then you come out near the basketball facility.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's really funny. So that's what Viking Gymnasium, a little bit like that. Easier to get to.
Yeah.
I will tell you that right now. Easy to find where you need to go. So Spencer's going to be on the call for the Seaman girls versus Topeka West tonight. We'll join that game in progress following the Rural boys versus Wichita West. Quick Royals note. There was a story yesterday from the New York Post that MLB veteran outfielder Adam Duvall will retire if his price in free agency is not met. So according to Joel Sherman of the New York Post, Adam Duvall, an 11-year Major League veteran outfielder, was offered $1 million with bonuses additionally by the Royals to join the team this year. But he turned it down and has told teams that if he's not guaranteed at least $3 million, he is going to retire. That is the same amount that he made last season playing for the Atlanta Braves. That is from the 36-year-old Adam Duvall. I respect it from Duvall. Hey, I've been at this for a long time. He unfortunately never got to hit free agency during his physical prime. Guys who go to college and then spend a normal amount of time in the minors, they're the ones who get screwed the most by the service time rules in MLB.
Oh, yeah.
Because by the time they become a free agent, they've kind of been cooked. They've been through their prime. So I respect him saying, hey, I got to put another year's worth of wear and tear in my body. You got to pay me X amount of dollars. So I respect it from that degree. I understand, though, the Royals going after this. Jack Johnson, who does Locked On Royals, the podcast, said he thinks that the pursuit makes some sense. He crushed lefties this past season, had a .514 slug against lefties. You don't know what Dairon Blanco's status is going to be. He's a little bit banged up. Nick Lofton's been a little bit banged up at spring training, and who knows what Joey Weimer is going to do right off the rip. I totally understand Adam Duvall. Now, Dan asked me, this lineup is already really right-handed. They've already got guys who can hit lefties. Do you need another righty? I think that's a fair concern. I would also posit, though, I can live with it to just get an above-average bat. Or
just give me
even
another
just
bat.
Slightly above average.
Give me a better bat than you have.
Yeah, and Dan also said, isn't this essentially Hunter Renfroe's skill set as an offensive player? Yes, I think so. Very similar anyway. But again, I would be willing to have a little redundancy to take a slight step up in my baseline.
Yeah.
Like, this is not a huge floor raiser. This is not taking us from, the outhouse to the penthouse all the way. But I do think it's enough that, okay, I would be interested in such a thing. Also, a report out there today that the Mets and the Royals discussed a trade for Starling Marte. However, that has since broken down. That was, again, from Joel Sherman of the New York Post originally. However, Kansas City has not closed the door on the possibility. Talks are not active, but they are still interested in possibly opening it up again. Last season, Marte had a 104 WRC plus. That's similar to OPS plus. Not as good as he was in his prime, but again, you're looking at an average outfield bat. I'd be okay with it.
Yeah.
I trust this Royals coaching staff in general. I think their development has been good. I think they got a lot out of worse players last year, to be frank with you. So I'd take a swing, especially if it's a reasonable price. I would be okay taking a shot on Starling Marte. I like the Royals' decision that, hey, we're going to try. We're going to try to make shrewd moves and go for it a little bit more than a lot of teams will. So I could talk myself into Starling Marte and Adam Duvall for that measure.
Yeah, I got a non-Royals thing. Did you see what happened in college baseball today?
I did not.
The George Mason baseball team set a new NCAA record of runs scored in an inning with 23.
Oh my gosh.
They didn't have a home run or a triple the entire inning.
All singles and doubles and walks.
Yeah. Walk, single, hit by pitch, double, single, hit by pitch, hit by pitch.
Who are they playing?
They are playing Holy Cross.
Yikes.
Yeah.
I was thinking they were playing some D3 school.
Yeah.
Not a D1 regional opponent.
The
Yikes.
previous record was 21 runs, held that at one point. It was tied, actually, by Wichita State in 84 and Penn State in 83.
There's some good Wichita State teams back then.
Yeah.
Interesting note. We've got to get to one final timeout. We'll come back, get your final word before we send you to the road to a championship here on 580 WIBW. All right, final word time. Let's wrap things up on this Tuesday edition of the program. Spencer, what is your final word?
Excited to get back on the headset tonight. It's been months, I guess. It's been since November.
Yeah, been a while.
Excited to do it. See where we can get things into the works next week. Work around some schedules for states. See how that goes. Excited to see that, but excited to get back on the headset tonight.
Final word for me today. We went through a post earlier. Spencer, you brought it to our attention a little bit earlier on today. What if the Chiefs consider Donovan Smith again at left tackle? And I got to be honest with you. I'll pass. Guy had a hip injury that kept him out all 2024, never got healthy again. He's on the wrong side of 30 for, NFL ages. He was just fine already when he was out there for the Chiefs in 2023. I'll pass. I don't know that Kingsley Suamataia is the answer. I don't know that the answer is on the roster or available in free agency right now, but that's one that I'm really not too keen on if I'm the Kansas City Chiefs. That's going to do it for 580 Sports Talk today. We are back tomorrow for a short show. We're on from 3 until 5 tomorrow, done early because of K-State basketball. It'll start with coverage at 5 o'clock. And don't forget that coming up next, we will send you on the road to a championship, sub-state basketball action, 6A boys, Washburn Rural versus Wichita West. Then we will go in progress to the Seaman girls taking on Topeka West coming up a little bit later on tonight. That's coming up next. For Dan Lucero, for Spencer Dupuis, I'm Brendan Dworzinski. You've been listening to 580 Sports Talk. We'll catch you coming up tomorrow at 3 o'clock.